If you are a non-EU citizen and you're married to an EU citizen, you're thinking about living in Spain, you may qualify for a special type of residency. I'm going to talk about what documents you need, the processes involved, who can qualify for this. And look, in today's world, everybody has access to ChatGPT and Google, and you can Google some of this stuff, but the internet doesn't have all the answers correct. So what I did was I Googled the process on ChatGPT, but since I'm going through this myself, I'm actually in the middle of it. I'm 6 months into this process. It's supposed to be the easiest way to get your residency in Spain. They say it takes less than 3 months. That's what the ChatGPT told me, but I'm over 6 months into this and I'm not done yet. So I'm going to combine the information that ChatGPT gave me, which if you're Googling this on ChatGPT it on your own, is the information you have. But then I'm going to mix in the actual way that this has been going, the actual events that we've had, the actual problems that we've had in real life. So if you're trying to get this residency card, this is the video that you need to watch. I'm Jeff.
I'm Anna.
And this is the mountain that we bought in Spain.
Welcome to our house.
Okay, first off, who qualifies? The people who qualify are direct relatives, a spouse, or a registered partner. They have a different designation in Spain. You don't have to be married. You can be a designated partner. I'm not going to get into all that. It says children on the chat. I'm looking at the ChatGPT answer here as I'm talking to you. It says children under 21 or over 21 if financially dependent. And it actually, when my wife went onto the Foreign Affairs website while we were looking at these to kind of check, because some of the things they said we're going to change around May the 20th. I don't think very much changed, but one of the things was it could be up to 26 years old, depending on what sort of dependency they have on you. So you'll have to look more into that if you have children that you're trying to bring with you. But spouses, registered partners, and dependent parents of either the EU citizenship of the spouse or their partner. So your parents could qualify to bring over as well. There are some conditions, which are the EU citizen must be living in Spain and exercising treaty rights, meaning they are working, self-employed, studying, or have sufficient means. There's a means test based on how much money you have in the bank that you can use to qualify if you're not working. And since we are retired people, we use the financial means test, which we'll get more into in the documents when we talk about bank statements. So the ChatGPT gave an example. It says, quick example, if your partner is a French national living and working in Madrid and you're from Argentina, you can apply for this residency card. Okay, the next category is the main requirements. So I'll read through what the ChatGPT says the documents and the main requirements are, and then I'll kind of backfill in what we learned from our experience. It says proof of family relationship, marriage certificate or birth certificate. And we're going to talk more about the marriage certificate. One quick note here, we pre-registered our marriage certificate in Spain before we started this whole process. We knew eventually we're going to be doing this. So like a year ago on a previous trip, we registered our marriage at the police, I think it was at the police station in Spain. And then you get the book of familia, the family book, and it's registered in Spain. That's an important step. Proof the EU citizen is residing legally in Spain, the empadronamiento, please excuse my pronunciation of some of these Spanish words, job contract or self-employment registration, proof of financial means, employment contract, bank statements, etc., proof of health insurance covering both of you. And there's a caveat there that I didn't find anywhere on the internet through ChatGPT or Google, is when you're getting that health insurance, you have to look and make sure that the health insurance covers you for this residency card, or if you're applying for the NLV, but the health insurance that you're applying for will specifically state whether it covers you for this process. You need to make sure that you do that. It's very important. And I didn't find that anywhere on the internet. Valid passport for both people and photocopies of the passport. I would get like at least 2 photocopies. And the TIE application form EX19, that's very important, form EX19, and administrative fees for the Modelo 790, Código 012. So basically you're applying for the TIE. There's several different forms, the NLV, the digital nomad, but for this specific residency card, you need the form EX19. That's also very important. Okay, the process. Now we will talk about the specific process and steps that you take along the way. I'm going to read through again the ChatGPT answers that it gave me as the process, and then I'll backfill in the things that we learned and the mistakes we made along the way, because there were some mistakes. Step 1, gather documents. Collect all originals and make copies. Non-Spanish documents must be apostilled, legalized, and officially translated into Spanish. Okay. Everything on the internet says that every single document needs to be apostolized and translated into Spanish. And we did not do that because my wife went on to the Foreign Affairs website and got the specific directions from the Spanish Foreign Affairs website. This is where you're going to get the information that's really going to pay dividends instead of all the ChatGPT stuff, because this is incorrect. The only thing we had apostolized was our marriage certificate. And you have to do this at the government agency that supplied you the document. So we had to go to the county courthouse where we got married and have them stamp our marriage certificate saying that they are the people who created and provided us with that document. That's the only one that we got apostolized. Now, I'm not trying to tell you to get less stuff apostolized. You've always more is better. The same with translation. This ChatGPT says non-Spanish documents must be apostolized, legalized, and officially translated into Spanish. And we did not do that either because that's not what the Foreign Affairs website said. We only had our bank statements translated into Spanish. And my wife used a website called Doc Translator. Yeah, Doc Translator. She said it was super cheap. See, I also have notes. I got the ChatGPT on my phone. I did a lot of research for this for you guys, which, by the way, don't forget to like the video. Give me a thumbs up down there. Leave me a comment if this was helpful. And I even added a little buy me a coffee thing that I'll put in the description. If you'd like to say thank you, that would be very nice. But Doc Translator, and she said that was very cheap way to do it. She scanned in the bank statements, and then that app or website or whatever it was translated everything for her, and it worked beautifully for us. We didn't have any problems with the bank statements. I want to mention here also, I don't know if this mentions on the ChatGPT that you need your NIE. We bought the house before we applied for this citizenship residency card. So I already had my NIE. So you might want to get your NIE ahead of time. Also, that's easy to do. It's basically the equivalent of the Spanish Social Security number. Okay, so ChatGPT has step 2, submit the application. Where? At the Oficina de Extranjería, the immigration office, or it says or police station in the province where you live. And I think that's more incorrect information. We could not do it at the police station where we live. We had to go to the Oficina, the immigration office, and we have to do it in the province that you live in. For us, that's an hour and a half drive away. So make sure you have all your documents. We're going to tell a little story about how we messed that up, and we had to do this twice. And it's a long drive when we miss a paper. Okay, and here's the tricky part. You have to get an appointment. You have to schedule online, cita previa extranjería. You have to go online and register to get this appointment, and it is very difficult. If you're doing this on your own, supposedly if you have an attorney or a lawyer or some relocation person helping you, it's much easier to get an appointment. Due to the time difference and everything, and when the offices were open, so we didn't have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning every day to try to get the appointments. We had my wife's mother and father who live in Spain trying to log on and get us appointments. We had her sister, who's a police officer, also trying to help us do some of this stuff and asking if there was anybody else any connections she had that could help us get this appointment. And you just log on and it's like no appointments. The next day, no appointments. The next day, no appointments. The next day, no appointments. And it took us weeks to actually get an appointment scheduled. So you got to be very diligent, and you got to spend a lot of time trying to get this appointment scheduled. So then it says bring your passport, your EU relative's passport, their ID, all of your documents and completed forms. And I would have copies of everything also. And then I'd have one folder with like original documents and one form with copies of documents, so that you're ready to go and you've got everything checked and double checked. Because like I said, if you screw this up, you got one shot at this appointment. I'll explain what happens if you have to come back, because that's what we had to do, but just try to get it right on the first time. Then it says step 3, resolution period. More fake information on the internet, because it says the immigration office has 3 months to respond. That ain't happening. No way. That's why I'm 6 months into this. If approved, you'll receive a favorable resolution and can proceed to fingerprinting for the TIE residence card. Okay, let me talk about this real quick for a second. We were going to be in Spain for like 4 months and 3 weeks or something, just shy of 5 months. And so when we were filling out this paperwork, we told them that, and they're like, "Oh, don't worry, no problem. It takes less than 3 months. If it takes more than 3 months, you're probably declined." And so then that's a whole nother set of problems. But they're like, "It'll be less than 3 months, no problem." it wasn't. And then we hadn't heard nothing. And the people in the office where we went to at the immigration office, they said the paperwork is in some other, they don't know where the paperwork goes. And so they couldn't tell us any answers as to when it was going to be done, how long they thought it was going to take, if they looked at anything, if we were missing paperwork, if we were approved, if we were declined. Nothing. 4 months go by, nothing. 4 months, 2 weeks go by, and we're getting ready to have to leave because my mom was having a surgery. So we had to go back to the US to help my mom. And we couldn't change that. So then we had to go to the national police station in our province. And then we had to get a letter that gave us because you're not allowed to leave Spain while your paperwork is in process. So that's important. So if you think you're going to go for 3 months and get this done and then leave and go pack your belongings and come back, you can, but you have to go to the National Police Department and get a form that says that this person is in the middle of the process. They haven't heard back. They're allowed to leave the country. And then you're going to have to show that form to the immigration person, the passport checker, whoever, when you come back into the country, or else they're not going to let you back in. You'll probably be able to get out of the country, but you won't be able to get back in the country without that form. So it's very important. You can't leave during the process. And if you have to leave during the process, you have to tell them why you're leaving and you have to go get that form. So another kind of big pain in the butt deal. Again, we had to drive an hour and a half over to go to the National Police Department to go get that form. And another thing, you're only allowed to be out of the country for 3 months. So I have to be back in Spain by December 3rd because that's when my 3 months is up. And we weren't sure if we were going to even hear back in that 3 months. So then you have to buy another plane ticket to go back. And then you may not have heard anything about your application. And so then you don't know how long you need to stay or if you're staying indefinitely in case you need to travel to somewhere else for whatever purposes. So it's very complicated. I hope I didn't confuse you too much with that, but that's the personal stuff that I'm going through. So it's been over 6 months. On just like 3 days ago, we got an email that said that I have been approved. Yay, because we already have plane tickets to go back to Spain on December 1st, so that we were going to have to just be in Spain waiting for this approval. But now I have it. So now step 4 is the TIE card appointment. It says schedule your appointment. Toma de huellas, that's your fingerprints. I might have said that wrong. Bring your passport, photos, proof of payment of the Modelo 790-012 and the approval letter. And then you'll get a biometric residence card valid for 5 years, usually it says. So now I'm trying to get my appointment to go get my fingerprints taken at the same place that it was impossible to get the, oh no, this is at the National Police Station. So we're trying to get the appointment. My wife's parents are trying to get the appointment online. And so far we haven't had any luck getting an appointment, but we are working on that as we speak. So again, you have to be diligent. You have to go online every day to try to get your fingerprinting appointment. And funny story, when I had to go get the letter that says that I'm allowed to leave the country and I'm allowed to come back in the country, that I was in the middle of this process, I was sitting in the chair and I looked right over next to me and I was like, oh, that's where they do the fingerprints. Can I just do my fingerprints while I'm here so that when the approval comes back, that'll already be done and I don't have to drive an hour and a half back and I don't have to buy a plane ticket to come back just to do my fingerprints, because that's basically, I'm buying a plane ticket just to go back and do my fingerprints now. And they looked at me like I had 3 eyeballs and they're like, no, you have to wait till you have this letter that says you're approved before you can do your fingerprints. So now all this rigmarole to go back and get my fingerprints done. Okay, step 5 from ChatGPT says renewal and rights. Card validity 5 years and then renewable. You have the right to live and work. That's important. You can work in Spain if you need to work in Spain under this residency card. The right to live and work in Spain. Renewal process is simpler. Hopefully that's true. I don't know. I'll know in 5 years. You must still prove the family relationship and the EU citizen's continued residence. Step 6, according to ChatGPT, it says common mistakes and tips, and this is where I'll give you some of the mistakes and tips from my personal experience as well. But it says not translating or legalize foreign documents. We talked about that already. We only translated the bank statements and we only apostillized our marriage certificate. But that's just me. I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. Blah, blah, blah. Disclaimer. If you want to apostilize everything and translate everything, it might be safer. But again, refer to the Foreign Affairs website. Missing health insurance proof. I talked about that before. Make sure that your health insurance says it specifically covers you for whatever residency or visa you're applying for. Submitting expired empadronamiento certificates. Yes, that's a good point. And well, the last tip, always keep copies and save your appointment confirmations. So the mistake that we made was your marriage certificate has to be valid and stamped within, I can't remember if it was 3 months or 6 months of you sitting in the chair at that appointment. So we did not know this at the time. So we had checked and double checked and photocopied, and we had every document, and the lady was like, give me this document, and my wife was like, boom, there you go. She's like, give me this document, boom, and we were crushing the appointment. And then all of a sudden she goes, oh, bam, your marriage certificate is 1 year old of the apostolization. Again, sorry, I might be making up some words here. And we're like, what are you talking about? It just says it needed to be apostolized. And they're like, yeah, but you could have gotten a divorce within the last year, so you got to go get another one. And so that's something that you have to get from the U.S. embassy or consulate. Ours is in Miami. And luckily, the American paperwork pushers are much more efficient, and we got that in 1 day. So then the next day we had the one paper we were missing, and we obviously couldn't get another appointment, but the lady in the immigration office says, just come back and sit here and I'll just squeeze you in between appointments, which took quite some time. So we drove an hour and a half each way, back an hour and a half back over to our immigration office, and sat there and waited and watched people come and go. And she was working with some big group. Anyway, we sat there for probably another 2 hours, just sitting in the waiting room and looking at her like, we're here, remember us? And she's like, I see you, but just wait. So anyway, that was a whole day wasted because we didn't know that the marriage certificate needed to be apostolized 3 or 6 months from your appointment. So that was a big mistake that we made. So what's the takeaway here? Be prepared, go to the Foreign Affairs website, make sure you've got all of your paperwork done, get your NIE to be safe. If you're going to Spain, if you have family members in Spain and you're going back and forth, go ahead and register your marriage beforehand and get that Libro de Familia like we did. That saved us a little bit of time. And check like I said again, check the Foreign Affairs website, make sure nothing changed, be diligent about getting your appointment. And you can do this on your own. We did it without a lawyer, without anybody helping us. And you just have to be diligent, and you have to make sure all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. And would this have gone faster if we had an attorney? I don't know. I really don't know. Sometimes I think maybe if we would have spent $200 or $300 and had somebody professional helping us, we could have got the appointment faster. And I don't think it would have gone through the system any faster though. Like this whole thing of we're gonna have to buy plane tickets and rent a car and go back to Spain and all this stuff just to do my fingerprints is costing us a lot of money, time, and energy. But I think that's probably just how the process works. So that's my personal experience compared to what ChatGPT says. Again, I hope you found this information helpful. This channel is about living in rural Spain, and it's a little bit to connect with you guys and show you what our life is like when we're there. Like I say, we're splitting our time right now, coming back and forth between there and Florida. This is my house in Florida. You can leave me a comment if you want to see a tour of my house in Florida. I did a tour of my house in Spain. If you want to see that, you can look around my channel, or I'll link to it up here. You can go check that out. But hopefully, I want to do like some content that helps you guys if you're moving and retiring or buying a house, and I want to have videos like this that are educational, but I also want to show you guys the project that we're doing around the house. We have a house on 35 acres in the mountains, in the Pyrenees Mountains in Spain. So I want you to watch some of that fun stuff too, so you can see what life is really like. I appreciate you guys watching. You can buy me a coffee, you can give me a like, you can leave me a comment, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll keep making these videos. I'll keep making these videos for y'all.